So we're going to make another one, and I'm just going to take this picture and blend it together with this background. It's kind of nice because the pictures have sort of the same colors, so I'm not going to need to add another layer to change all the colors of everything. So I'm just going to make sure I have this set at 6 by 9. Then I'll find my folder. So here's the first one. I'll move it up here. And I should probably check because I've been downloading these super large. And these are quite a bit bigger than I need them to be. 2500, they could be just 1600 pixel wide. So at least a third smaller, but I'm not going to add a lot of layers to this, so we'll see if this is going to work. There's a couple ways we could blend these together. And I'm going to make copies of these so that you can see some of the different ways. So the easiest way would just be to take this top layer and delete some of it to blend it out. And I kind of hesitate to do that because I like having their hands down here, and if you blend it out, you're going to lose some of that. On the other hand, it is pretty cool how the way the angle of their arms kind of matches these stairs. And I'm still left with a little bit of their hands, their fingers. So even if I just do that, it already looks okay. It kind of sucks there's this lamp there, so if I delete a little bit more, you're just going to see the lamp. I could also move this up quite a bit and just put it kind of like this, and that might work. But the other way that I could do all of this, I can blend out the top of this layer a little bit. And I could fill in the back with black, dark color. To do that, I'd probably just make a square and I'd fill the color into black. And I'd fill the space. I might want to do this with like a rough texture instead, like a really dark texture. And move that behind. But it's a good way if you have one picture that's horizontal and you just need to fade it out, just to delete a little bit of the top and add a solid color behind. It's going to look too flat to be used as is, but if you have a flat color, it's really easy for blending. So now that I have this picture here, if I didn't have any black color behind it, if it was just white, then when I set this to blend, a lot of it would disappear. See, it just disappears with the white. But if I do have that black, then my blending is different. The multiply won't work because the multiply will just make it disappear. But I could do something like that to make it darker. And what I actually want is this to be a little bit darker on the edges. And the easiest way is probably going to be to add another layer that has a vignette effect to make it darker around there. And I also need to think about where my text is going to go. I kind of like these lamps, so I'm going to make this smaller so I can fit both of those lamps, and then bring this up higher. And that also makes it blend a little bit better now that the black of his coat isn't going straight into this light, it's going into the dark of the top of that other picture. And I can even move that up a little higher, because I do need to think about where my text is going to go. So if I leave enough black space here, it's another question. I mean, I like sometimes cutting off the top of their heads to just show their mouths. So you could consider doing that. I could also make this a lot bigger. Maybe put it up here, and then delete even more from the bottom. Or I could just bring this up on top like that. So you get a really different feel if you decide to do it that way, as opposed to something closer. And you don't even really need to fit them in all the way, so it's kind of a decision. You have to see what you think looks good. And you also want to consider how it's going to look like this. People say I'm a little different than most people who consider the thumbnail to be really important. It is important that it looks good and that it's strong and it looks like one solid piece of art. So even before the text, I like to say before you add text, the cover should appeal to the target readers and let them know what genre it's in, even without the text. So that's what you're looking for when you're looking at the thumbnail, if you can see what it is. So it's not bad here, but if I wanted to make this much bigger, it's just easier to see the faces. I wouldn't actually do that. That's too big. And you don't want to consider the thumbnail more than you consider the actual picture. It's important, but it's more important how the cover actually looks, not just how it looks when it's small. So you want to get it right. Funny story, these stairs with the lamp, that's Prague, and it's actually about a block away from where I'm staying right now. I should go and take a picture of myself there. But I found this on a stock photography site. So I'm going to probably leave these about here. The only other problem is it's kind of too light up here on the top. But because I've added that extra layer of black, what I can do now is either make this a little bit transparent, not so much, to make it darker, or I'll just take my eraser tool and I'll go in a little bit around this picture. If I wanted to. The other thing you can do, of course, is just add another layer on top that's a vignette. You could try something with a lot of texture, depending on the genre. Texture is almost always good. I mean, there are some genres that it won't work for, but it usually makes the cover more interesting. And so here's a lot darker, but it screws up their faces a little bit. So I'm going to make that a little bigger. And then I'm also going to need to pull this image down so that it's not quite messing up their faces so much. I'm just going to move this over. So that way there's still quite a bit of nice texture, but it doesn't make them look like they're dirty. So I could do something like that. It depends on genre. It does make it a lot more interesting, but it also makes it a little bit more grunge. So it's for some genres, like if it's a techno thriller or sci-fi, then that's not going to work so well. But that could work. Or I could try another kind of layer that's less grungy, but just more dark around the edges. Like a more regular vignette, like one of these. And so that's a nice, solid dark around the edge, but there's none of that messy grunge stuff. So that works pretty well. I'm going to move her and the faces down a little bit again. I'm going to have to undo this top layer so I can move them where I want them. I'm trying to get them centered too. I'm going to make this a little bit smaller because I don't want that. I want the lamp lights to be visible. And I'm going to leave this one, but I'm going to make it almost transparent. So just a tiny bit of texture. So now you have a much stronger contrast. I could leave it like that and it looks fine. It'd make a strong cover, but I kind of like it darker. And the only other problem is there's not really a place to put the text. And so what I'm going to have to do, first I'll duplicate this layer just in case I want some of it, which is a little bit slow. I'm going to use the delete tool and erase a little bit more of this down here to leave some room for the text. So it's pretty dark. It might be too dark, but those are some things you'd want to consider when you're making your decisions. And this layer I'm just going to make a little bit transparent also. And it's bothering me that they're not centered, so I'm going to move it over. And then I'm going to make this layer a lot bigger. This is a really dark vignette. I don't even need that much, so I'm going to move it up a bit and maybe even make it a little bigger so it's not quite so dark. And that's a decent cover. I kind of want there to be a little bit more stronger contrast or color in the middle, but I can do something with the text also. I'm tempted to delete this even more, make it dark all the way up to their heads and make their heads bigger. It's the other thing that I could do, but I'm going to stop here and save it as a project.